So we only have one set of notes in Firebase right now, and we're just syncing with that set of notes. So no matter who you log in as, you're going to see the exact same notes. But we want each user to have his or her own notes. What can we do? Let's look at our data. We could, on each note, add a user ID or something. What if we did this? What if we said, had the user ID as one of these endpoints? So we had like user ID and underneath that a list of notes. Or under notes, a user ID. Either way. If you remember in sync state, the first argument is the endpoint in Firebase that we want the notes to sync to. So we could change that from just /notes to, I'm going to use a template string here, backticks, to this .state.uid /notes. If I do that, well, now I have no notes. But it didn't explode. So what if I add a note? This is my note and no one else's, I think. Got to Firebase. Moment of truth. Oh, look at that. Now we have notes here, our old ones. And now I have this. And underneath that, notes. And underneath that, the note that I just added. Didn't matter that that endpoint didn't even exist on Firebase yet. It created it as soon as we used it. Yep. Whoops. Whoops. I just changed this first argument to sync state from the string notes to the string this.state.uid /notes. Now this is a JSON-y looking structure, so you would, if you had the data, you would drill down with dots, right? But when you're setting an endpoint, like an API endpoint, you use slashes because it's a URL, basically. Yeah, Rick.
For some reason when I do that, I still get my user ID underneath notes, but before that I'm getting null. And then it's going null to notes to user ID.
Did you change it so that sync state only runs after you've authenticated? Yeah. So this is why we need this.state.uid to actually be something. If it starts syncing immediately, it'll start syncing with the wrong endpoint. But I didn't allow it to happen wrong before we fixed it. We fixed it ahead of time.
Did you do that in handle off?
Yes. So I changed, I took component did mount out completely, renamed it to sync notes, and then I call sync notes, yeah, from handle off. And only after set state has actually worked. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't call it after. I was just calling it directly.
Okay, yeah. By passing it as a second argument to set state, we make darn sure that the UID has been set before we do it. Yeah, Jay.
Like, what's the catch with this? Why is, I mean, is there a catch with this? I mean, using Firebase to just, for all your backend stuff? I mean, it just seems so.
Yeah, you want to answer that, Todd?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
you can answer that. Well, you only have a certain number of projects, so you can't create another project.
Unless you pay for it.
Unless you pay for it.
But yeah, it's still cheaper than writing your own backend. But yeah.
But then there's also like a limit on the number of connections that you can have that concurrently live on the database. Its default is like 100, I think. I think you pay to get more and stuff. But I mean, if you pay, then it's kind of like a
So the free account certainly comes with some catches. But yeah. But yeah, you can pay for it, and it's a pretty robust architecture, and people use it in production. Now, it may not be, the right hammer for every nail. For one thing, it does use a NoSQL database, and for certain kinds of things, a relational database might work better. You are putting all your eggs in one basket, so should anything ever happen to Firebase, you have no backend. And you may, for various reasons, be legally required to know certain things about your backend. Like, I have no idea one way or the other. I've never looked into it, whether Firebase is HIPAA compliant. So if you have, personally identifiable medical data, that kind of stuff, you might not want to trust somebody else's servers with that, even if it is Google. And yeah, you are relying on them not changing things because last year, in the middle of the boot camp, they shut off the version of Firebase that we were using because they had a new one. And we knew about the new one, but it was brand new and the old one was still up. So we thought, it's okay. We'll keep using it. Nope. They shut it off, or they disallowed people from creating new accounts. So you do have to make darn sure that you change your code when they change something. And they're not going to ask you first, right? They're going to change it whenever they feel like it. So, all the usual problems with depending on a third party for everything. But still, it's pretty dang nice for an awful lot of use cases. So, yep, now we have things scoped to the individual user. If I were to sign out, sign in as a different Google account, now we didn't clear out the form, did we? This is my Gmail dudes note. And now we see another UID here with a different note. And the note for the other user, it changed too. Shucks. Look, this is the exact same note ID. If I change this, change them both. Why? Because we didn't clear out the form. So the note that was in the form, current note, already had an ID. And when we add a note in save note, if there's already an ID, we just use that ID. Right? Because we have this if here. So when we sign out, we need to make sure some other stuff happens too. So let's worry about that in just a second. Scope notes by UID. Each user has their own set of notes.